places.
Come on, Brian.
Okay,
we gotta-
meeting has started.
Okay, we're starting our meeting here. We've got everybody here at the meeting except for Chris Forth. He let me know, get him 10. Susan's not here. No, Susan was gonna dial in. I'm not sure if she's.
Maybe she will.
Let's ask her real quick.
And
So with that, I'll send a quick text.
Speed.
So we have, like to do the pledge of allegiance for.
Oh, I was on stage. All the meeting over. I pledge allegiance to the flag. To the flag. To the republic. Stands. One nation.
Okay, so we have Chris missing and I text Susan. Let's see what happens there. Matt, you wanna talk about the minutes? From that, we had an issue with that.
Oh, yeah, I'm trying to still figure that out. I think my best bet is I gotta give it Ed again. 'Cause Ed is. He knows the most about getting from the owl, and he's done it for me before, going from the owl recordings and getting them, I don't know, you probably have done it too. But the AI version from the owl that records everything,
Oh,
and getting a summary done and they go. Just not sure exactly how to do it. I've been monkeying with it, trying to figure it out, but if I had somebody show me how to do it.
The way it happened is if I record this meeting. He is supposed to have set it up that the AI minutes are taking minutes from, and then when the meeting is over with. You'll get an email from Ed with meeting minutes.
And I've gotten that one, that was once. So I gotta figure out why cause I'm in there trying to figure it out.
So, okay, so you won't be. The only, and what's happening to us in Township is we don't have good solid internet here. And in the event that you see this thing start to go down, you've lost your minutes. So like in Parks and Rec, I'm gonna have somebody to be the secretary as when every one of our,
There's a back plan.
right.
Okay, well, that's why I'm not figuring out that, cause I know that Ed has he's got we're using his Zoom link. He's approved and all this stuff. So I just need to get with him again and say, hey, can you, cause I got the email one time that I haven't got. Ed. So I'll have to get him to make sure after his meetings, I get the email.
You'll get it. If this works, you'll get it automatically, and or he'll send it to me and I'll get it.
Okay. And either way, I will, after the meeting sometime. Straight, see it in my inbox, I'll get a hold of them.
Okay.
That way we can start posting them.
Do you want me to be posting meeting minutes and agendas to the Parks and Rec website? Do you want them published?
Yeah.
Next, any public comment?
can somebody tell me about the 2 lanes going both ways?
I can.
Great, thank you.
So although I've gotten emails thanking me for the new trail,
A lot of people.
when people stopping me, it is what's called a door swing line. A door swing line.
Swing on.
And what you're supposed to do is park as close to the curb as you can. And when you open your door on the street side, it's supposed to enable you not to get clipped by. And what they've been doing is, it looked like they were erasing them. But what they're doing is they cut mini grooves in each stripe. And it chews up the temporary tape. And then they come along and they spray paint into those grooves. And the concept, according to Elmer's, is that it limits snow plows from destroying the lines because they're down in the. But the secondary line is called a door swing line.
And it's, so you're supposed to park as close as you can to the curb.
It prevents you from the roadway. Gives you a safety thing. And I think in 2015, if you go online, those lines were already, they just wore out.
Yeah. It looked like they actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other public comment? Okay, open items. As you know, at the beginning of the year, I wasn't in all the meetings, but we talked about a vision statement that Mark put together. And I think everybody agreed to it. So if they did, I'd like to get a motion to approve that. If
Should we just do a quick read of it?
Yeah, it's got
Yeah.
minutes, go ahead.
To create a network. Sorry, to create a connected network of multi-use trails for use by pedestrians, cyclists that fosters a healthy community in Onekama Village and Township.
I have a friendly amendment to that. Multi-use paths and sidewalks.
Okay.
I don't know if that needs seconding or thirding or whatever.
Motion to, what's that? Mark.
That's Mark.
He's right behind you.
If you look behind it, either.
So where is a copy of that vision?
It's on the
It's
agenda.
on the agenda. It's like, I think it's kind of weird, stable.
That's my agenda.
Go in a second, kind of just going to. And
Okay,
if you scribble out the word trail and put to create a connected network of multi-use paths
okay.
and sidewalks for pedestrians and cyclists that foster a healthy community in the village and township.
Okay. super,
Yeah, I'd make
thank
a
you.
motion that we should adopt it.
Good, can I get a second?
Fits.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next item was Joe put together a little statement for us for the web update. I sent it around everybody. Everybody agreed with that. We'll make that little change that we just talked about on the agreement. So I'll make that change big and get it to you.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a separate there.
That's this.
Yes.
So where would that be?
It's gonna go on the website where there's currently old information on the trail.
And do we have,
There, if you go on the website, there's a version, I don't know.
Do you want it?
But she's asking about the web.
Yeah, but
There's a
I don't
trail.
have a copy right now. I'm
Oh.
better visually
Okay.
cup, even in my sunglasses. Super, thank you.
welcome.
Okay, so we'll get that to Vic and then he can update the webpage. That's good. The next item are a number of updates from the team. Susan's not here, but she sent a note to me that she met with Dan at the schools and they're very interested in making progress. They're working together on that. She's having more follow-up conversations. She also talked with Julie, who's executive director at Manistee County Library. They've got some grant money possibly. And she's interested in doing that walking path where you would show a page from every book along the path. So she's working with both those entities on that. Dave, could you give us an update on the environmental thing?
Yeah, Frank Beaver from the drive, has talked. Got this little short thing. I think the high points of it is, that. Just could be where we put a bench. But instead of bench, we put a potted plant or maybe there'd be room for a circle of native plantings. And I think the rest stops and the benches could provide some activity to the trail throughout its length. And also it's an opportunity if we wanted to look at a copy of the Adopt a Highway model. If say there was a rest stop at Little Eden, maybe Little Eden would like to adopt taking care of it.
Yeah,
A note on that, if you're done,
Well, go ahead, add a note.
within the village, the PLA and the garden club already cooperatively put up big planters with plants in them. Also, PLA is about to transition to next year, because we didn't plant petunias this year. Dedicated hanging baskets. These are Super Duty hanging shepherd hooks that were made by a guy who does them for Petoskey. And so through the trail through the village, I think, the PLA and the garden club have got that pretty well in hand.
But
Coordinate.
I'm looking for.
Understand outside of it.
So that we don't just suddenly come to the village and suddenly we've got blue
Oh, I
spots. where
agree.
everything's-
I was just trying to avoid confusion, and you talk with Mary Jo. She's the one that heads all
It'd
that.
be a good one to collaborate with, so just together.
Okay.
Anything else from there? You're still working with Frank? Okay, Joe and Mickey did a great job on the sidewalk. You guys want to give us an update?
Sure.
Also,
Now, there's a handout
Yeah.
right here. Now, if you wanted, we could look at the map, but really, I don't think we necessarily have to look at the map. But we measured everything up, and wherever there was a cracked, broken or an uneven slab, we marked that down to be replaced. All through the village, or for most of it, they're all 5x5 slabs, okay? Until you get down by, the Dollar House and, the real estate
Shop.
office. Then you gotta short sections of 10-footers, where you've got, 10-foot wide sidewalks. Okay? And then, when you get down to the very west end of the village, you've got approximately 1,700 feet where the sidewalk is only 4 feet wide, and that would have to all be redone to 5 foot.
That's
And
the very end when it narrows down, because Matt and I walked it last week.
yeah, and when it looks smaller than that, but
That's because all the grass.
because it's so overgrown. And so anyway, everywhere else, it's all 5 feet until you get down there. And then so that would all have to be redone. We're not cement construction guys, we don't know, but in our estimate, like from First Street to Second Street, there were 12 to 14 slabs would have to be replaced. It might be more, might be less, we really don't know. But in talking with a couple of contractors, we said that it was gonna be about $10 per square foot. And we anticipate that the total cost of redoing what we had looked at was probably gonna be somewhere between 130 and 150,000.
Yeah, I think the key thing is just find the damage areas.
Yep.
And whoever we have, let them.
Sure.
decide what the cost is or what they're gonna do. Is there any way we can get that map? The map, Joe, and just.
You
how I
can't
marked it?
blow it up to get that definitive.
But can you put some circles just to give a graphic? If you can't, that's okay.
It's hard to say. We did break it out here that way.
Perfect. I was just wondering a visual. If that's all we got, that's perfect.
I can try to make a visual. It's gonna be a little off.
Thanks for doing that. That's a lot of work.
Yeah,
Is there any way to highlight? Okay, we'll use that then. We'll use that for our,
and maybe the people, whenever they get to it, going around, they'll have a different way of map it.
yeah.
Never know.
What we wanted to do is just get the percentage of damage so they can assess. Sure. They replace everything, they do part of it, they do none of it.
And from a maintenance standpoint on the pedestrian path through the village, talking with several contractors also, while we might have looked at a 7-foot series of slabs and we identified maybe 3 of them that should be replaced. When you go to replace, you may have to take out adjacent slabs to avoid creating another problem. In other words, you don't just put a Band-Aid on it, you have to look at it. So our count is kind of minimum number. And the minimum length that would have to be done.
Yeah. The other thing, and we wrote an email back or responded when Matt and I walked through. Also, a maintenance standpoint, just the edging and all that kind of stuff, depending on where it goes. And I know it's a responsibility of the owner, but I think there needs to be something done there.
So Mickey and I talked about it. We haven't talked with Wayne. Going back, I'm on the PLA board and they're great at raising volunteers, and Mickey and I talked about it might be the village or we raise funds to purchase commercial picture. Okay, twice a year, get a group of volunteers to spend a Saturday and just edge them. I think that would keep them in real good shape. Weed control there, really talk to his name Tyler.
Tyler.
So what could you spray on those? It'd have to be something organic.
Where the petunias used to be.
No, not where the
just on main
petunias
side,
are,
just the main side.
Oh, gotcha.
but between the cracks,
Yeah.
sometimes things come up.
Right.
One thing to consider is, what happens to the petunia path? Because we're not gonna plant there. And it might be a little bit more, but you might look at cementing in that.
So you go from 5 feet to 7 feet.
But that was a good review on that. And Joe, you and I talked separately about that maintenance thing. I'll take a look at that and get back to you. We can talk about that next month
Yeah,
on that piece. Okay. Susan, welcome. That's okay.
You guys.
Did you give it, I tried to give an update. Did you give an update on yours, please?
Name's spelled wrong, it's H-A. And, my update was I had put a copy out, I sent you one, that I had met with, Dave Meiser at superintendent of the school, and he was gonna put it on their work session agenda. That would engineering, I'm gonna go into the engineering phase, and that they would be, I brought up the idea of maybe they would help us with wayfinding in the village and, pointing out where the school is, the pickleball, whatever, library. And he said that sounded like a good idea. So he's gonna put it in his work session. And then I did finally get a hold of Julie. Her name's Rena. And she is the executive director at Manatee County Library. I don't know, she wanted to join in. I don't know if she joined in or not. Anyways, there is an endowment and, they would be willing to put a storybook along our sidewalk through the village. And, there's one example of it. It's in Manistee behind the Carnegie building. And I'm gonna check that out. They have an endowment fund for like $16,000 that would help us out, and then she'd help with funding.
Right.
And they change out the story, like, I think like every
Is that behind
other
the-
month.
So.
Yeah, it's behind the,
Yeah.
so they tore a
Yeah,
house down.
That's,
Haven't seen it yet,
there's a cool walkway through there.
little areas. That was
That
exciting.
Yeah.
That's good.
one note along with that, when Mickey and I presented the village concept last month, we talked about, or it talks about having the far center parking. It's kind of a focal point, a starting point for walking through the village. And then if that were the case, then it would fit right in with, be a great place to storybook.
It might be.
Right by the library too.
Well, sorry.
Good. Thank you, Susan.
Mhm.
Matt? Can you update us on business outreach?
Yeah, I started down at this end, working my way through and just talking to business owners and I think when I talk to them, when I first say, okay, just so you know, whatever we do is not, we're only gonna be in the road right away. Anything crazy, they wanna see something that helps make area walkable. They wanna see something that helps bring people into town, which would technically be some kind of pedestrian, non-motorized path where you could easily get in to the village area, to the, I was referring to the commercial district, where they could do shopping, I was almost gonna call
The ice cream
it,
spot.
yeah. And just to facilitate people coming from around different areas, Portage Point, and then, from drones. So explaining it like that, they all see it, they're like, oh, and then the next question is, it's not gonna eliminate the parking, is it? And I said, no, we're not doing it, we're not gonna do something that eliminates parking, would cost your business. It would be detrimental to your business. We don't wanna do that. And anything we do, we wanna make it something that people like. They would actually enjoy, and then potentially everybody would be using it. So, talking about that, everybody that I have spoken to so far, are like, oh yeah, that'd be great. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm just gonna continue through town. So I think there's maybe some, not a ton, but I think there's some misconceptions out there still about parking, and then, there's a lot of places don't have, the only parking they do have is. So, I mean, when you get down towards like the hardware store and stuff, you got parking either. So I know that was a concern, and then once they know it's in the road right away, if it's less, parking isn't, then we're trying to facilitate. One, it's a healthy thing to have people doing, biking, skating, whatever, walking, but also, that bringing to a focal point in town to help the commercial district. People might. Coffees at the new coffee place. So once that was discussed, it was very well received. So, and my plan is just to continue with that.
Okay. Questions for that, Annabelle? Okay, the next one is an update on the Michigan Health Endowment Fund. I had an update with them, shared where we were at on the concepts, quoting process, and they were good. They come and do a site visit over the next 6 or 8 weeks. So we just gave them an update based on what they were looking for.
I just want to add there, the guy's is Tail, right?
Exactly.
Super supportive. Very, I mean, like, they want to help and do things to help us. It's just, I didn't realize how helpful they could be and supportive and like, not only they want to see us. It's good to know, it's like you got somebody out there in a different agency, not rooting for us.
This is good.
It was nice to know.
And one of the things they asked for is any information we have or PR releases to share with them so they can share with their group.
Yeah. Yeah, they love the feel good.
Yeah.
Anything and the fact that I think for somebody who's, I said, hey, have you ever been to Onekama? But the fact that I guess the 2 different governmental units working together was something that sounds like it doesn't happen very often anyway. So
Good.
we're trendsetters, even though we don't know it. Because they
the
work Michigan wide, right?
Yeah, all of Michigan. The next one was Mark on connectivity. Can you give us an update, Mark?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for loading that document. Not really much to say about it. I just wanted to organize our thinking a little bit about the different things that we're trying to connect along the route, and some of the reasons for connectivity. Hopefully it can be useful for grant applications, things like that. Rick had some great input, suggestions. If anyone else has any input, ideas, suggestions, I'll be happy to do that. There was you mentioned an Eagles View Park, Rick, and I wasn't sure where that was.
It's right at the intersection of 8 Mile and M22.
Oh, okay.
There's a park called Feldeck Park, which is
Yeah.
a little picking area. To the left of that, facing the lake, is Eagle View.
Okay, great, thanks. Learn something new every day. I'll add that one to the list, and but any, feedback, comments, ideas, please let me know and I'll update it.
You got everything on one page.
Yeah.
It puts it together, and like Mark says, if there's anything else we're missing on there, just go ahead and fill it in and get with Mark on that.
Small
Thanks.
note, under restaurants, you need to add steak and latte coffee shop.
So you hear that?
Yep,
That's the new one.
You said yes, Mark?
yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Good catch. So is there anything else to build on that?
I think this.
Just get to, get to them. Okay? The last one was our request for quote for the grant. We continued that conversation with Michigan Endowment. They gave us a lot of feedback. So we sent that out to the group in a draft form. So if you, no, not that one, that everybody's got that. So just get back to Matt and I on any, adjustments or changes anybody thinks needs to be on there.
Just a note, while it references the GFA feasibility study, in its final form, it needs to refer to the other routes. Like right now, we haven't settled on the central route.
Right.
The one you presented, the one Mickey and I did for the village, the one Mark's gonna do. And it needs to reference those because we threw out, if I'm right, a lot of the GFA
Right.
components or strip that down so they're not confused by it.
Good point.
Yeah, because there's a whole section again.
On that piece. Okay, so that's good. Any questions or whatever, get back to us. On route review, leading to what Joe said, one of the things we didn't get a chance to review with Mark's recommendation. So Mark put a PowerPoint together for us to go through. There was a lot of emails back and forth. We talked about having a group discussion on that.
Can I go ahead and drive the PowerPoint? I can share my screen if you, once you
Yeah,
close out
go
yours.
ahead.
You have to close yours out first and then I can share mine.
So I stop share, right?
Yeah, and now I should be able to. Give me a
Okay.
second. There it goes. It's short, 6 or 7 slides, so not too painful. This is, these are options. This is based on work that I've been doing over the years down in Georgia with a group called the Tool Design Group. And they're the national leaders in this kind of design. They wrote the latest update to the NACTO design standards that were released last year. So, this is based on what I've learned from them. This is a multi-use path that is showing, two-way biking and a separated pedestrian area on the right. That's a typical kind of rural multi-use path. I wanted to go over a little bit about the recommended options. So whenever you have more than 30 miles an hour or more than 7,000 cars per day, the recommendation is that you separate bikes and pedestrians from cars. It just becomes too dangerous. There's some nice graphs I could show you. At 20 miles an hour, you have about a 10% chance of dying if you get hit. At 50, you have about an 80% chance. So, at 30, it's around 30, 40%. So you really want to separate once you get the speed up above 30 miles an hour. And that would be the situation outside of the village limit to Portage Point Road or to Crescent Beach Road. Within the village, speeds are slower, so we have more options. We're kind of in that light blue range. Actually, let me do the full screen here. Continue to share. Okay, so these are some of the options. This is called parking protected bike lanes. And what you have is the parking acts as the protection. I was doing the math on this. Even if you try to make the bike lane a little narrower at 3 feet, you still need about a 2-foot buffer so passenger car doors can open and not hit the bikers. I'm not sure we have that width. I don't think we have that width actually going through the downtown. So that would be more difficult, more costly to achieve because you really need about a 48-foot width. So that's one.
Just a note for you, Mark.
Sure.
We really only have 43 feet
Is that
to
correct?
work with. Curb to curb, it's 46, but
Right.
what I understand from MDOT is that you can't use that 1.5-foot gutter pan on either side. So we've
Okay.
really only got 43 feet of road to work.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. We have these in Athens, actually, Georgia, and they've worked out fine. There is a learning curve. People are used to car parking as close to the curb as possible. For the first few months, you had cars sort of half in and half out of the bike lane. And within 6 months to a year, people have figured it out and it works fine. But there is a learning curve. Option 2, which I think is probably the most likely, is and also least expensive would be to do everything we can to get people to slow down naturally without having to think about slowing down, just because they're going to be more comfortable. You do that by narrowing the roadway slightly, creating obstacles like these bump outs that are shown on the image on the right, pedestrian refuges so you can help pedestrians get across. I'll show you that on the next slide. Clearly designating the crosswalks, flashing lights. I know Joe's talked about some of these things, and I agree we need some safe places for folks to cross the road. Signage can be helpful as you enter and leave the village. Again, the bump outs can be paired with a crosswalk, or they can be on their own. They can be slanted to make snow removal easier, sort of more of a V shape rather than just a block. They can have planters in them, which I've already heard folks talking about, or trees. Trees are more of an issue because of, limitations of ability to survive within the village, concrete, and also safety issues. Sharrows are something you can put in where there aren't any other options. So I'm thinking the area near the hardware store and the cafe and that part where people are already going slower there just naturally because they see a lot of people on the sidewalk. They don't know when someone's going to jump out. Cars naturally tend to slow down there, and that's where a sharrow, I think, would be an appropriate use. This is an example of, again, a traffic calming measure that's in the form of a crosswalk. There's a refuge. No one wants to put a median all the way down. These are little islands of medians that provide a refuge and safe place for people, particularly as we get older, we're slower walking and crossing. People are often, assisted. They might have a cane or a walker, so they're going to maybe take advantage of that refuge. These are paired with blinky, flashy lights. And also, in this case, we just have a hash crosswalk, but in other places, they've used this green thermoplastic to make it super clear, hey, you're entering a crosswalk now. And they can be, again, paired with the bump outs, can be paired with planters. Here you can see in the bottom right corner is kind of a bump out that is making it a shorter distance for people to cross. So this is, examples of the calming measures that I think would be relatively less expensive and would make it safer for both bikers and walkers. The third thing, I'm not sure we have room for that
Hold on,
either.
Mark.
Oh, sure, sorry.
I was just gonna add to what you were saying, Mark, is that invites people to walk around.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
the safety is increased, so part of what our goal is to bring people in so they can take advantage of the commercial district in town. They see a nice crosswalk, they can get across with a little kid or a stroller. It's like.
Okay, thanks. The last option, again, I'm not sure we have room for this. This shows what's called a two-way cycle track. And the only reason I'm showing it, the advantage is it uses a little bit less buffer space. You have 8 feet of parking, 2 travel lanes, another 8 feet of parking, and then both bike lanes are on one side. So you only have that one buffer needed. So that reduces the width a bit. It still may not get us down to 43 feet. So I'm not sure that's going to be possible. But I did want to show that as an option that we've used in Athens and people have used elsewhere. Last thing, these are just some illustrations. On the upper right, I was on my walk today, and this is a parking protected bike lane. And then below again is that two-way cycle track that's shown there. So anyway, happy to discuss, take questions, reactions.
Go through your concept that you shared with us,
Pardon me?
the concept you put together.
In his original email.
Yeah, in your original email.
I'm not
Your
sure.
route, you had a suggested route, that used alleyways and a couple other.
Yeah, oh boy, I'd have to dig that out. I don't have that handy right now to present. I could put it together and send it around. Basically, I think at that point, I had floated the idea of losing some parking, which apparently is not very popular. And so that sounds like that's not going to fly. So I'm not sure that that's relevant. I was trying to do things here that maintain the parking, as it currently is without having to remove any of it or very, very little just for these bump outs.
Any questions for Mark? Okay, thanks, Mark.
If I can ask Mark,
Go ahead.
have you looked at the concept that Rick presented last month?
I'm not sure which one we're talking about. Sorry.
It's just a series, I don't know if you sent those to him,
Yeah, I
the
said,
pictures.
Yeah.
It has on one side an 8-foot two-way bike path,
Mhm.
a 3-foot space to separate from a 7-foot parking space. But there's
Mhm.
no barriers or anything in that 3-foot, it's just painted lines, I think.
Yeah, you can-
Between the tribe, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool design, put it together, Mark.
Okay, I'll have to look for that. I'm sorry. I think I missed that. I was on my bicycle for a week in the Netherlands during that week, so I suspect I missed it. I apologize. I'll take a look at it. You know, the buffers typically 3 feet would be a pretty wide buffer, and you can enhance the buffers by putting little vertical elements in that, you know, just make people more aware that this is a buffer. They're not supposed to cross over. They can be flexible plastic things. Now, snow removal again becomes an issue. So those can be removable for the winter, but again, those are more details, but I'll take a look at that.
Like a Shero, we've talked about that.
Yeah,
Joe and I have talked about that. The challenge is on an MDOT trunk line, you're not allowed to do that, but they are looking at it as an exception.
okay,
We have coming up,
yeah,
at a meeting. So all our concepts, so our 3 main, the south, the north, and the north extension. And then to Joe's point, the 3 concepts for the central are all with MDOT. And they're proposing a meeting for us on the 16th, if we can make it as a group. 2 hours, go through, there'll at least be 2 people there from MDOT to answer questions.
Here on Zoom.
Zoom. Okay,
yeah, I can be
so
there.
I worked around all their schedules and everything, and that was the best time, and I think we need at least 2 hours just to go through those. Some of the routes we've gone through, pretty straightforward. Every route has an issue. The south has drainage. The north, we've got that intersection between M22 and Portage Point Drive. Mark, you've sent a concept that they have, so they're gonna look at that on that piece. And then the central, we've got multiple pieces to look at. They'll also be talking about funding, so what's fundable, what's not fundable. They'll have that information too for us,
On the 16th,
What they will fund.
or the TAP grants. Yeah. Because we know it's a multi-transportation. That grant specifically is not for sidewalks, but maybe we can package it in with everything else. So it's all, they have all the information. They're gonna get their team
Well, and
together.
again, they set a precedent down in Township by Ann Arbor, where they awarded over $4.5 million on a TAP grant for just sidewalks, did not involve multi-use trail or anything.
Yeah, that's why I'm bringing them in, and they've got all the information. So we'll have the experts. They'll review everything. They'll have a meeting between themselves, and then we'll have a working meeting with them.
Yeah, because we can keep saying we like this, that, and the other thing. They're the ones that
Mhm.
will tell us.
Yeah.
You can or can't.
I mean, all the points about not having enough space or whatever,
They'll answer.
let them answer for us. You
Makes
know,
sense.
we've got the sidewalk review, which was important, because when I met with them last time, they were like, we're not just gonna replace brand new sidewalks. So that data that you guys put together is perfect.
We avoided the new sidewalks with the ADA ramps.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we don't wanna touch that. They can extend that. Yeah, Zoom meeting. I just wanna make sure everybody in the group can make that.
I've got it.
Yeah, I'll
Got
make
it.
it.
Susan, can you do it?
Yeah, I can certainly try.
I got it.
What time was that again?
16.
So,
What time?
2 to 4. 2 to 4.
2 to 4, thank you.
I've got Chris, he's checking his schedule out there, so we should have everybody for that. Okay, now I'll answer all the questions that we have in ways.
At that meeting with them, I think, you know, like, Mark's alluding to that, the speed limit's a lot higher as we get to the west end of the village. Maybe we can talk to MDOT on the 16th and find out if it's possible, at least through the end of the village, if we can get down to 30 or 35.
Yeah, there's a lot of technicality behind that. I could follow up with you offline, Mickey, to figure that. What Mark was saying is there's a lot of indirect speed calming techniques you can do, you know, to get them to slow down along those lines.
Maybe just obey what's there.
The double yellow is,
That doesn't
solves
work,
all your
unfortunately.
that's your issue.
Well,
Pardon?
And they painted the lines, they didn't do that yet.
Or
It's a single line out there.
Yeah,
Right,
we've
Yeah.
never had a double yellow out there.
be
so
nice.
that's what you're suggesting.
That's my suggestion.
we've told them that anything come back from that back end, because as soon as they leave, that speed just goes up. So every route we have has an issue, whether it's cost, whether it's complexity or whatever, and hopefully we'll be able to work all those out. And then we'll also have the consultant to be able to verify the dollars on that. Okay?
And as a calming, option, flashing lights may present issues. We already have, two issues in the village with the Lutheran sign and the school sign. If you live by those, you don't like them because they're flashing all the time. And, I don't know, the village does have a dark sky ordinance. New construction, I'm not sure how it would be received.
The ones we proposed in the trail or village concept were ones that are actively pedestrian. They don't flash all. Only when a pedestrian, they push.
Right,
a
it's
button.
activated, you push a button. They can
Right,
be done
and
so
then
they,
it
they're
shuts
more
down.
focused, but yeah, it's a good point. I think it's something you need to be thoughtful about. I wouldn't want to live next to one of those either if it's going all the time.
Yeah, they're very supportive of safety, and figuring out what's best. But like I said, we've got opportunities and we'll work those out on the 16th. And from that standpoint, we'll get that quote going. There are a couple partner updates that I may reach out to individually. We want to activate and get some more information. Because all this stuff's good as we go to funding, how it supports community and how it connects together. Marks is a really good example of that, how to tie that together and build that story behind that. So the 16th, we'll line that up. With that, any public comment?
I have a question. Obviously, we have new. It's. What are the double white line? What are the?
This are all lights. I'll explain it.
I will tell you, I will let Joe explain it again. But my phone blew up over the last 2 days on this topic. And I've got all the information, but I'll let Joe go because he mentioned it earlier.
So I can tell you that I got a message from Dave Meister who said, congratulations on the new bike. Nice work. And I've been stopped every. The reality is that double line. You have a lane that is the first line closest to the curb. You're supposed to park as close to the curb as you can. That next 2.5 foot space is for a door swing. It's not really a bike lane.
If you go on Google, for example,
Well,
look at
what did M then?
it.
So what we.
I think.
Force one.
Yeah, Dave Weiss checked it out and they told him it's called a door swing lane.
Yeah, it would be a terrible place for a bike lane for exactly that reason. Because the door's open, it's either gonna hit a biker or force them into the roadway unexpectedly. They would never get approved as a bike lane per se.
If you go back and you look at Google Maps, like 2015, that was actually there already.
And I
So
think
their point is they're just putting it out
I think
over time it got.
the unintended consequences, just because this has been a kind of a topic. People are thinking about or talking about it. I had the same issue. People are like, hey, man, you guys got that done pretty quick. I go, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm like, hey, we don't even need meeting anymore.
Well,
So
I told Dave Meister, we're halfway there if you use that as a bike lane. If we put up signs on both sides that say, share the road with the bikers, and you fix the sidewalk, you reduce the cost of what we're trying to do through the village. I agree with Mark, it's not a safe bike lane, but
No, it's not. We want
it
safe
is
bike
safe.
lanes.
It's safer than the concept of narrowing the space and the traffic lanes. Because when you look at that, when you look at the one Rick had, if I park my car on that concept and I open my door swing is straight into traffic, which is only 8.5 feet
Yeah, there's some
wide.
sizing.
Yeah.
But,
And somebody's gonna get doored by another vehicle.
the answer would be put arrows in.
Mhm.
But I don't, it's not up to
Yeah,
us.
they haven't been shown to be terribly effective, particularly it's more in low speed area, low speed, low volume areas where they're shown to be
That's why they
helpful.
don't want to put it on a trunk line.
Right,
But it's something we have in that concept and we'll let them look at.
yep.
I have a comment, please. I would put this in bold print on the bike trail or the multi-use trail page and Parks and Rec, door swing lane. And explain it.
I think Dave Meister is planning to do that.
We had a
this week.
conversation with David before the
Well,
Good
meeting.
idea.
okay, I think
Someone
that's,
from this team needs to put the words together in a
I'll be happy to do
PDF
that.
format, give me that, and I'll put it up.
it also needs to go on the homepage of the township website, on the upcoming news and events.
Yeah, just so you know. Well, people are just assuming that's what, like,
But somebody should give Kyle Kotecki a call and he can write an article.
Yes, there you go. That's a great idea.
Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First swing
yeah,
lane.
yeah.
Yeah.
So until we get some
You
spray
might-
cover it.
You need to get that out, or the rumors, which have already started, will continue to multiply on both pages. Matt,
I found this idea of a door swing lane, I'm somewhat insulted by it. You know, you think that if I open my door and I stay within that lane, I'm safe? I don't think so.
It's the only place I've ever seen a door swing lane in my life.
No, they're in
Yeah, you-
Mesick, they're in a lot of places up.
You know,
Have you
No,
ever
they
seen it
didn't, they
before?
didn't put them in Arcadia, but they just redid Arcadia's.
No
just
swing
like
there,
us.
no swing in there?
They didn't have a door swing lane.
they don't care
I just,
about it.
I just
I don't know
haven't.
if about parking lot, but it's very confusing.
It is, and I think that is
And-
the unintended
And
consequence.
MDOT sent me pictures from 2015 saying, we just replaced what was there.
And again, would also be great to be put in the news.
Yeah, we'll
article.
include that.
We'll
And it
address it.
needs to get out there soon.
You want the history of that?
Not-
It was a person who had major influence who made that happen.
I remember.
And everybody in the village and township was surprised. And I don't want to give the name of the person that was involved with that,
Okay,
but, that's how that got started. We were all surprised and I'm shocked that MDOT would duplicate what
well,
happened.
it's not intuitive. To your point, which brought, everybody asked what it is.
Well, no, I advise, but I'm saying that same thing happened years ago when it first came in. And somebody in the village should know who that is.
Okay,
I gotta go to these.
okay, so we got public comments.
Rick,
Yes, sir.
kind of a public comment from a team member, so. The team needs to be aware that we're gonna have to work hard to get public support. We're gonna be spending probably close to $4 to $6 million, which means the township's gonna have to cough up, even at the best scenario. They're gonna have to cough up 400,000 to 600,000. And people are gonna ask, where are my tax dollars getting spent? When I look back at the history of how this all got started. It was in the master plan. And in the master plan, also in the feasibility study, it states that 83% of the respondents to the survey for the master plan favored this. And I originally thought it was number one on the township master plan because it was something the majority of the population wanted. So to let you know what we're up against, because we're gonna get viewed, and there's gonna be concerns on this, is that when you look at that survey that the township did, it was 272 people, which involved only 214 residents. That I don't know when it was done, but the 2023 census had the township at 1,408 residents. So that survey was done by 15% of the population only.
That's how it always
And-
happens in these surveys.
I was just gonna say, we were
10% of the number.
Let me go on.
Yeah.
Okay, within that,
Good.
37 surveys identified that they'd like the ideal future to include a walking, biking solution. That's 2.6% of the residents in this. I'm just laying out what we're up against, no matter how positive we might feel here.
Well, I think also you have to remember
86%.
that if it's $400,000, it's not spent in one day, it's spent over perhaps 4 years. So there is, and it's an investment in a healthier, more attractive, more lively, more hopefully economically vibrant community. And that's another way to look at it. It's not just burning money. We're creating something that will make it safer for kids and older people and people who are visiting our community to enjoy it. And so that's how I tend to view it. I don't think we should shortchange any proposal at this point. If we find we don't have the money, we don't have the money. But I don't want to kneecap ourselves now before we even know what the funding sources and opportunities are and what our
I'm
match would
just
be.
saying that people are more aware of grants are disappearing in this country like the rapid fire. People are more sensitive to how their tax dollars are spent. I mean, they live in the village. I pay 2 tax bills. I pay a village tax bill every year and I pay 2 township tax bills, which equate to about 3.5 times what I spend in the village. You know, people are going to become more sensitive to this. The thing that you should be aware of is, and I didn't know this until I read this, is that there were 2 options given in the survey. That's why I was asking for a copy of that survey, Dave. And one was for an off-road option. And that received 82% of the surveyed people favored that. It does state in the master plan that, see, 82% of the respondents dedicated off-road bike lanes and sidewalks to connect neighborhoods and businesses. Technically, though, the least popular option, the second one, was gathered 78% support for a dedicated on-road bike. All I'm letting you know is that, and your comments from the business owners, the emphasis here is increase walkability, save the parking.
Well, here's what they did say. When I talked to them, I think there's an approach too. And I talked to them. I don't go up to them and say, hey, people are telling me this. I asked, I would like to hear what you think about this. You talk to me. We want to be partners with you. Doing this, I tell them right off the bat, live here. We're trying to do something that's nice for the community. We don't want to do something that's want to be an acceptable use of time, energy, and money. We want to do something that people are going to like and they're going to use it. And options of bringing people into the commercial district have to increase, which means not excluding parking. Because that's one of the first things they were saying, and what about park? And I'm saying, agreed, what we do is going to benefit you and help you. And so using that approach and being honest with them, I'm not forecasting things out to them like, hey, I've already proved this. What do you think? I try to garner genuine support by telling them open, honest dialogue will happen. Things that are gonna hurt your business, we're gonna do things that. And so I might have gotten a little bit of different responses than you got.
Man,
I'll
what
tell
are
you
the-
I went in a little bit different.
let me just say this. I totally agree with what you're saying. Goal as a team is to deliver a concept
Yes.
to the community. And they can decide if they.
Yeah.
And we have all the funding to be able to do that. And in the funding is outreach to ask them all their questions, to get all the feedback. If at the end of the path,
They say no.
at the end of our project, we either go forward or it's not. Okay?
I'm just raising that. We do need to create a positive movement for this. There's
Exactly.
gonna be a lot of questions. I mean, painting the road has generated a slew of
And outside
confusion.
of us.
Yeah.
We're still.
Not our doing.
But you weren't gonna have, we haven't gone into the deep dive, we're talking high level, this, that, but there might be individual property owners. There may be insurmountable cost in doing this, we gotta get all that together. Which is why we got that together, and then luckily we have the technical resources to get all the answers there. And then serve it up and saying, is this something you would like? Not like, or whatever.
What they say, Trace's answers.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, maybe when we're updating the website, or Vic, I say we, I mean Vic is updating the website to add the
I
bit
only
about
do,
the,
but I want to be clear, I only do the mechanics when you guys provide me the PDF.
so would, as you explain what those new lines mean, should there be something, saying, I think we have gotten to the point where we can agree or have agreed that there's not going to be any elimination of parking. And then we're not going outside of the current road right of way in the village. Is that something we want to share with people so they, kind of dispelling rumors and stopping that from getting started?
Just within the village. It's
Would
within
that-
the
correct,
township
just-
as well.
I know, within the village, well, we're staying within the right of way, within the village, I'm sorry, township, we're staying within the road margins within the village, correct?
Decided we're not gonna do any easements. Property acquisition, we didn't wanna have that convoluted project or add any complexity in.
Right. So I just know,
Mark,
I just think,
it's
should we
Robert-
communicate that to, allay concerns?
Sewer, the fiasco, you need to be upfront on what the parameters are and that in the end, it is going to be left to the public.
Yeah, that's what I've always said is it.
I understand what you've said, but that has not been spread around. And there's a difference between what is
Mhm.
being said here and what is being shared out there. I think an article in the newspaper would be an excellent idea. All I'm telling you is communicate transparency.
We got a couple
Mhm.
already, waiting for
Great.
this grant to be, there's another, we have in the queue, once we get the grant set up.
What, what grant?
The Michigan Endowment Grant we just talked about,
The one we already got?
yeah,
Well, what do you mean it's in the queue? We've already received it.
I know, but we haven't executed it yet. So we're getting quotes, we talked about that and everything else, and then that's an opportunity to have a press release.
Okay, again, from a public perspective, I thought we've already got the grant.
We did get the,
So.
We haven't pulled the trigger to do the engineering study yet. And what we need to, what we're trying to do,
Communicate
yeah,
that.
what we're trying to do is come up with a concept that everybody agrees on, and that's what the engineering money will be spent
and
on.
it's not only engineering, it's consulting,
Yeah.
it's environmental.
Communicating that, because I've probably followed this pretty carefully, and that's not clear to me.
Good. Anything else?
Just, I just, maybe I'm just confused. Out in our audience, we have 3 members of the public. And we have 1 village official. We have 1 township official on this committee.
You have one village official.
Two.
Two.
Oh, two, and two village, excuse me. The officials are the ones who are going to be making the decision for these three members of the public. Two of them may like it, one of them may not. And I'm not playing, that's a fact. You got it. The members of the public who are in favor of it will cheer and clap and applaud. People who are opposed to it will be as loud as the sewer people were about, but it's up to the decision will be made by the village and township officials whether or not to go forward.
Dave, it's different than the sewer because the sewer was actually vote, but because it was a specialist. Everybody who had property.
But I want to make it clear that this is not a public vote item, other than the fact that how the village and township officials decide this may affect the vote in a November election. I remember what Matt Kiefer did on that vote, and by God.
I understand that, Dave.
Well, and I think the public needs to be aware of the fact also that there is not going to be a referendum on the trail project.
Then again, it needs to be communicated. That's all I'm saying.
I'm gonna interrupt this. I've heard Rich say, I wrote it down, that it's our responsibility, our goal is to deliver a concept to the community. Let them decide if they want it. It's a quote from me. So that's different than what you're saying. And I happen to agree with Libby. I think that you have to have this information out in front of people. If that's what your committee is going to do, make a concept available for people to respond to. And you need to talk about that, and you need to develop the system by which that's going to take place. It's not I heard Vic say it's not a top-down kind of thing. Take it or leave it or vote people out. And the same thing happened. I live very closely to the sewer project. And what happened there was that there was not transparency in terms of all the details that were involved with that. And when that finally all came out, you got a roaring of people that just would not touch it. And so it really was a bad situation. So I think if what Rick is saying is what the committee wants to do, that's gonna really work well with the community. You come up with a concept, you put it out there, get some feedback on that, adjust it if you have to adjust it. Be cooperative, community oriented, make it something that people want, just like, talking to the business people. Same idea. It's gotta be a joint project, can't be an authoritarian top-down project. It cannot. And so, at the time, get commitment.
So we've got the we've got the resources. I think what Dave was alluding to is after we come up with whatever the recommendation is, we're gonna serve that up to the units of government. Units of government.
That's different than what you said before.
Well, I can't make a decision. I'm just a recommending thing. What I said,
You said the outcome that, and I happen to like what you said, because I think that's the community's role. So that you give it to the public, let them look at it. Facilitate the presentation in a way in which you have ownership, you have the business ownership. Facilitate it in a way in which community has ownership, and that will be serving everybody well.
correct.
If indeed you put the community against the people
And I think there might be a little bit of confusion in there. So just so you know, this committee, that's why we're trying to do all this work and legwork and kind of iron out as many wrinkles as humanly possible. And then eventually we make a recommendation. That recommendation doesn't mean it's gonna happen. And then at that recommendation, we're gonna continue to have public
So my
meetings.
quote,
Yeah.
that recommendation is gonna be served up to the units of government.
Yes.
But that's not,
And
that's not what you said, and I'll try to pull both of your comments together.
you just listen to
Pulling both together. This is thoughtful, good. You will indeed, if you do what you say you're gonna do, you will have a proposal that you can submit to the units of government.
Exactly. That's what I'm
Yes,
talking
and
about.
that's okay, But the most important thing in terms of having something go forward is to have the engagement of the community in every possible way that you can. And then you don't have to worry about voting people out of office or anything, because everybody will be in on it from the beginning. Just take time and get people committed. Can I help Dan here? I think the order in which this should happen to avoid those kinds of problems, those sense of lack of transparency, is once we define the picture, once we have the concept, this is what it looks like in the south, this is what we've agreed to through the central, this is what we agreed to on the north. Once we have that picture, I think it needs to be presented to the public. Dave, you don't like surveys, but I think before we spend a penny of the 100,000, we need to know from the public, is this what you want? We're ready to begin engineering, consulting, all of that work. But we want to know that we have something you want. You're going to get yes and no, but you're going to get a result. And then when you go to the units of government, you can say, we did our work as a team. We came up with a unified concept to recommend. We went to the public. This is their input. Now it's up to now the governing bodies have good complete information to make a decision.
Joe, that's ridiculous.
No, it isn't.
You can't take a concept and a survey to the officials of both entities and say, here it is, here's what we agreed to, here's what the village, here's what the residents want. And by the way, we have no idea what it's gonna cost, and we have no idea if it's engineeringly possible. Because we haven't.
Okay, guys, I just wanted to interject.
The
Julie,
engineering
librarian
and
is on the phone.
Yeah.
The
the
librarian is
engineering
joining.
and the cost comes.
Sorry, Mark, you've been interrupted.
The librarian is on the phone, and I don't know if she joined. I think, Matt, you mentioned that you had spoken with her or somebody did. And I don't know if she wanted to. I'm sorry, it just, I noticed she was on the phone. I wanted to respect her time and input.
Julie, if you hear us, is there something that you wanted to add? If there is, you need to unmute yourself.
She may have given up.
I
So-
think that.
Let me finish
Sure, go ahead.
following up for Dave. Here it is. We come up with a unified concept. Okay, we put it out to the public for input. Before we tell the governing or before we tell the township, spend the $100,000, we should respect them to get them as much information as we can. We've got the concept. Here's the public feedback. You guys pull the trigger on it.
But Joe, you were just
Yeah.
saying that this survey aren't helpful because we don't get enough of a sample
Part
size.
of
We
the-
don't get.
No.
I mean, are we just gonna have the same thing again and the same issues that you're gonna raise
No,
again?
that's where what I was trying to get at in my discussion on the surveys is we need to put an all-out effort, even door to door, knock doors, get people's opinion so that we have more than just 25% of the population. I think the governing bodies would like, especially the township board, we're gonna be on the hook for this huge matching funds. It'd be nice to know what the public feels. And I think that's part of the duties of this team is to go out, gather, just put it up.
So when we buy a new fire engine, do we do this? When we buy, when other large expenditures are made, is that what we do? I'm just wondering why this process is being treated differently from other projects,
Project
other
this big.
processes, other
You just
purchases,
bought $1
other
million
investments.
fire engine.
I know, that's what I was,
I think, if I could try to
Yeah.
culminate this whole thing,
thank you.
and I don't want to use the word engineering, in these funds are monies to do all this we're talking about. survey and everything else, okay? So
Public meetings.
public meetings, interaction with people.
So
We've
I'm
got
trying, I was
people
gonna try to
talking
explain it.
So
Wouldn't-
I think,
I understand.
I don't wanna, I know what I said and I stand by what I said. I think we're making it a little more complex. The whole goal is for this team to get a concept that's signed off by the community and let them decide. When they decide, they have the elected leaders who decide to represent them. It's all intermingled together. So there's no, I think we're getting wrapped around a little bit too tight in some of our conversations. At the end of the day, we're gonna come up with concepts. We're gonna vet it out with the public, with the community, get all that, change it, whatever. Find out what we can do, what we can't do, what the costs are, all that type of stuff, and then update along the way. And at the end of this process, the way the grant is all that grant has nothing to do with construction. It's just set up for, your grant to go forward with.
And
So,
it's a good process, because what you just said is your team would be influenced by the public. And you may make some adjustments, something,
Yes.
when you come to your consensus about what looks like it's gonna be good for the community, then you pass it off to the two governing bodies to spend money.
And
That's a wonderful process.
and theoretically, they'll spend money for the construction, we'll spend the
Yes,
grant money.
no, I
But
agree.
then theoretically, it would slide right through, or whatever they decide on. That's where I think we're getting a little technical.
I think the thing that's been missed in the, well, I'd say, you know, when you purchase a fire truck, people can, that's not gonna impact that $1 million fire. That's some governing bodies have to make decisions, but this one impacts 1,400 and some people and 300 and some people, 1,700
exactly.
people. So you go and get their input, and I'm gonna support what you just said. Then you come and you tweak your program and you try to make it better, and then, when you people have this a sense that you think you've got the community involved in this, and you like it, you see what's gonna happen, then you pass it off, and now they find the funding and get it.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And I think what people are getting confused on is we're trying to, the best of our ability, and then there's there's a lot of stuff we just don't know. That's why we have some people, money to help us out to figure out. We're trying to knock off as many of these rough edges, so to speak. So when we do get public input, we can explain to people, there's a pretty clear, so to speak, going forward that they can say, okay, I get it. That's the same thing with explaining to people like dispelling rumors and is it gonna be here or there, or take away parking. Those are what I call rough edges and trying to knock those things off. So when we finally come up with something, we got a pretty solid thing that we think people will like. And we're gonna. There's money in this grant for public meetings. So people come, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they're gonna come in and do this stuff and
I
look.
gotta say this, that's the thing that's been missing.
Yeah,
It's
that's why we're doing it this way.
One more thing.
Public question, public
Like-
question. I'm not a member of the team, member of the public. I've heard Rick mention that, we're gonna. When we have this meeting, I had heard Joe say that, once we have a plan together, we're going to communicate this. And I heard Libby say, we are lacking communication. So what I want you to discuss as the person who's going to take what you give me is, when are you going to provide me information to address the two lines on the street? What's the sequence that you're going to provide data to me? Because I believe that there's angst amongst the public about where we are step by step by step by step. So my question is, when can I expect to receive something that we're going to communicate? Here's the status of where we are. Are we gonna wait for the meeting on the 16th? Are we gonna wait until decisions have been made about how we're going forward? Are we gonna do something tomorrow?
I don't know about tomorrow, but we'll have the information on the door knockout in a few days. Next week, we'll have that.
The white
next
line.
week.
Okay.
White line.
Next week, you'll give me something I can publish. And right now on the website, there is a trail section that leads to a huge, long document. Are we going to, is it gonna replace that, or how is
You
it?
have in your email feedback from us for an opening page.
Okay, all right, so just so everybody knows, I got that email.
Just got it. Just got,
So I'm gonna replace it with that.
okay,
It'll
And that's
give
the
them a
feedback
link,
from
they
everybody
can
else.
go see that archived information.
yeah, okay. One more thing.
You wanna think, I'm trying to be helpful. And this process has gotta be really good to have this happen. And so that's why I'm talking a lot about, just gotta engage people. And then, for example, I made a note here also, that when you said on the 16th, we're gonna show the proposal to the MDOT people and have the consultants there and stuff like, what are you gonna show on the 16th? That's a note I meant to made to myself. What are you going to show?
We have we have concepts for different phases of it.
We've already met over the last 3 months.
Okay, you got three actually distinct.
There's 4 sections.
I got that.
South,
Yeah, I got that.
Central, north, and a north
And you got
extension.
those pretty well specified.
3 out of the 4 we do.
And did the public have input to those?
No,
That's what I'm talking about.
But from MDOT, we're going to be learning. You can't do this, you can't do concept one, because we won't allow it on a trunk road.
we have
You
one.
can do it, concepts 2 and 3.
I understand what you're saying, but.
We don't have enough information, because if we show somebody something,
Oh, so
we
you're,
can't do it.
but what you're trying to do is to clarify your current proposals as to what's possible before you put the final thing to the public.
Not the
Yeah.
final thing, the initial.
Okay,
Yeah,
but what if the concepts you have on a 1, 2, 3 out of 4, what if the concepts in there are something the public doesn't want?
I think they're posted on the website as the trail plan.
What happens if the concepts they like can't be done?
And that's good data.
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay, but doesn't the public also have a chance to say something about the concepts you folks have? In terms of whether it's even should go forward?
Well, not if they're contrary to MDOT rules and regulations.
They own the road, they own the road.
You'll find out, so, but you're gonna have that data going forward then, and you can say, oh, come back to the public that we can't do that. But at least, you take a concept forward that people thought this is a great idea, but we can't have telephone posts in the middle of the street. So yes, it's a possibility, I'm just saying the process needs to be really thought through here.
Okay,
Yeah, that's,
Didn't we address the problems that the public had, which we're not gonna do any easements, you're not gonna do any, you're gonna have parking on both sides of the streets? Didn't this team address all of the known
That's been
issues?
going
Yeah.
on since December.
I think this is our 4th or 5th meeting.
Mhm.
Nobody knows that, except the 3 members right here. That's the kind of information you need to get out. And maybe what you should have is a communication committee. That actually are a PR committee. Because first of all, biking and cycling through the village of Onekama, poorly labeled, because you're talking walk. And you're talking
Yeah,
sidewalk.
sorry, that was my fault. It was a typo. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, Libby.
well, all right,
I'll fix
but
it right
again-
away. That
No,
was a
Mark,
typo.
my
It was a
point is-
typo.
get 3 lashes.
Mark, yeah, I'm not putting, what I'm trying to say, and I've been trying to say from the beginning, you have to come up with a consistent message and name.
I
And
said
they
the same
haven't done
thing
that.
about 20 minutes ago. I agree.
So,
I think we could do better
So
to
all
communicate.
I'm saying is, you haven't shared what you just shared are the 3 people here who know it. That's a mistake.
I just created
I
that
said
document
before.
yesterday and shared it with the team.
I don't mean to be,
Yesterday.
you were not at the other meeting.
Yeah.
My meeting that I came to in April, I said the same thing. We can't call
Mm-hmm.
it a biking and cycling if we're talking walking. So you were not at that meeting, you were biking in Italy. Again, all I'm trying to do, my expertise is not engineering. My expertise is communication. And my expertise is engaging the public. That's what I've done. All I'm trying to do is share that with you so that this is successful. Take it or leave it.
thank you. Okay, anything else? Okay, we'll adjourn the meeting.
All right.
Thank you, Vic.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. That's right.